Hello everyone, welcome to Katharine's Creatures. This is episode 64, and this is a series we're going to touch base and talk a little bit about various mythological beasts, beings, and the like pulled from lore worldwide. I always like to preface by saying that I'm not a linguist, so if I mispronounce something, I apologize in advance. I try my best, but I know errors have and will occur on occasion. With that said, kind of going on along what I talked about last week vibe-wise, I'm actually going to jump over back to Greece and talk about another canine creature. One that I think doesn't get enough love and attention. So what I wanted to talk about today is the Orthrus, also sometimes called Orthus, and this is a two-headed dog, and yes, he is related to Cerberus, the little more famous three-headed dog of this myth. But I wanted to talk about Orthrus first because this was, as I said, a two-headed dog, just like Cerberus, serves as a guard dog in myth. His master, or his human, his person, was another three-headed giant called Geryon. I think that's how you pronounce it. And I'm about to get to some weird lineage. And when I say weird lineage, the Greeks I find very entertaining because the mothers and fathers of a lot of these creatures look nothing alike to their offspring. So, for example, Geryon, the three-headed giant, the owner of Orthrus, is the grandson of Medusa, the snake-headed Gorgon, and the nephew of Pegasus, the winged horse. Okay. So that just give you a little taste of how weird lineage is in Greco-Roman myth. Now, Orthrus itself, again going back to the dog, served kind of as a cattle dog, a guard dog for the giant's herd of red cattle on an island called Eurythia? Hopefully I pronounce that something close, which means, kind of translates to the red one. So red cattle on the sunset style island to the far west of the Mediterranean. It was just supposed to guard the cattle. Sounds like a simple existence? Not so much. We'll get to that in a moment. Going back to weird lineage though, Orthrus was supposedly the offspring of two very famous monster-like entities in Greek myth. The Echidnia, I think that's how you pronounce his name, and Typhon, and is also, again, the brother to Cerberus, a three-headed dog. That kind of makes sense. Two-headed dog, three-headed dog. Orthrus was also the father, and here's where things get weird again, to the Sphinx. So human-headed, lion-body, winged creature, and the Nemean lion, a giant lion. Strange, right? I just want to, I know they don't understand genetics, but I just think this is wild, just to kind of wrap your head around. Anywho, going back, simple existence, guarding this herd of red cattle, and here comes Hercules. Unfortunately, this is where Orthrus meets his end, because the 10th task of Hercules, out of 12, is to steal the herd of cattle. So here comes Hercules, and not only is he coming in weapons bearer and the mighty demigod that he is, or Heracles, depending, I think this one's Heracles actually, I think Greek's Heracles and Hercules is Roman, but someone check me, it's one way or the other. Anywho, I'm drifting. Going back to it, he has his famous club in one hand and he's wearing the Nemean lion skin over his shoulders, so your offspring is dead. So of course Orthrus gets enraged, attacks, is clubbed to death? Sorry, that's the myth, and thus ends the story of Orthrus. Now, which is interesting because in old paintings and artworks of Orthrus depicting this battle, even though the story says Hercules used his famous club, he's usually depicted with arrows as the way he was killed, which I don't know why, unless arrows were easier to paint. That would be more of an art historian question for you. Another thing that's really interesting is Orthrus is almost never depicted alive. It's usually after the battle against Hercules. And of course, Hercules, being the hero he is, succeeds on defeating the dog, then has to go about and defeating the three-headed giant before he can go take the cattle and fulfill that 10th task. So that's Hercules going on, going in the background, and poor Orthrus was just the dog in the way. If you have any questions about this or anything else, Post them in the comments below or reach out to me on any of my social media. I do want to jump back in and say again, I loved this concept of this two-headed dog because I do think Cerberus gets a lot of attention and Orthrus doesn't. So I even incorporate a whole bunch of these two-headed dogs and created them as a subspecies in one of my books, The Underrealms, that is releasing, or will have released this week, actually. Thinking about it. When this airs, it will be released. So you can check out that book too and read a little bit more about Orthrus in fantasy if that is what your interest. Like I said, if you have any questions about this or anything else, post them in the comments, reach out to me, and until next time, Skull.